Hi, this is Renee, and I will be teaching a lesson out of Picture Perfect Science lessons for the changing moon. It is a lesson that's directed from K to 4, specifically suggested grade levels of 3 through 6. I'm going to be turning this into a second grade lesson again, so my content standards will be, my CDE content standards will be directed at that. The lesson objectives for these are Content Standard A, ask a question about objects, organisms and events in the environment and use data to construct a reasonable explanation. And Content Standard D, Earth and Space Sciences, understand that objects in the sky have patterns of movement. The moon moves across the sky and its observable shape changes on a daily basis in a cycle that lasts about a month. What I've connected this to is that Earth system science students know and understand the process and interaction of Earth's systems and the structure and dynamics of Earth and other objects in space, and describe and interpret how Earth's geologic history and place in space are relevant to our understanding of the processes that have shaped our planet. My content objective is going to be to explain and analyze the phases of the moon as seen from Earth, and to understand the moon is in constant motion, and to find answers by such means as making careful observations of things, doing experiments over and over, and communicating with others. So, being a scientist, I want the kids' content objective, part of that, to be a scientist. Their skill objective is to observe the moon for a month and complete a moon journal, to take a moon survey, to research appropriate answers. So with this survey, to find out if it is true or false and how they would go about doing that, and to also research and analyse the moon phases. There are lots of materials needed for this. This would probably be a week, and already it's a month project, so this will be an ongoing thing throughout the year. Materials you'll need are moon journals, the moon book, Papa Please Give Me the Moon by Eric Carle, Rise the Moon. We need foam balls, light or a lamp, and pencils for an experiment, and phases of the moon, and quiz and a survey. These are all in the book, and I will show you as I go. To engage, to begin with, we will read Rise of the Moon. It's one book I don't have right now, but it basically talks about the enchantment of the moon and the light and how beautiful the moon is. Once we've read that as a whole group, we will discuss, does the moon really pull the ocean? Where does the moon light come from? Is the moon only visible at night? And I wonder what makes the moon look different sometimes. Just to start them thinking about the changing moon. Strategies that I will ask them to take part in is talk to a partner about these questions, think, pair, share, and then come back together as a whole group discussion and talk about what they've found out or that they think. So for this, their pre-assessment, once they've done these strategies, will be to create a KWL chart. The explore phase will be the introduction of the moon journal. This will be for a whole month. So we will start with a month of moon journals. So each night they will go outside and mark on the moon journal calendar what type of moon it is. So what it looks like, if they can see it, if they can't see it, to write things down. What colour is it? Does it look the same? But just to go in every single night and do the shape of the moon onto their moon journal. Each week we'll kind of catch back up, and as I said, we'll talk about, was the moon the same shape every night? Was the moon the same colour? Did you see the moon every time you looked for it? What did the moon look like on the first night of your journal, and what did it look like on the last night of your journal? So these are going to be ongoing questions. Did you see any patterns throughout the month in your moon journal, and how do you know the moon is there if it's a cloudy night? So these will be whole group discussions just inserts over the month period whilst they'll be doing their journals. To further explain, this is when, after the month is done, we will go into specific parts of the moon and changing of the moon. So by explaining further, we'll get the kids to do the moon survey, which is asking 3 different volunteers or 3 different people the following questions and record their answers on the lines below. So this is starting to help the kids do their skill objective, which is or their content objective, which is to think like a scientist and have careful observations, do experiments, and communicate with others about finding out information. So after we do that, we'll be talking about our answers and how, if they were correct or if they were a bit iffy, what the kids actually thought about them. We're going to be starting our talk about phases of the moon. We're going to conference about ideas. We're going to think, pair, share, and do whole group discussion. We're going to watch a YouTube video before we start an experiment about phases of the moon. It just has an overview of what we'll be doing in our experiment. This is where we're going to need our lamp, our pencils, and our foam balls, which we'll be putting the pencil into the foam ball, using a lamp to show how the phases of the moon. The child will be Earth, the ball will be the moon, and the lamp will be the sun. And this will show them as they move around the lamp, or different angles of the lamp will show them the phases of the moon. This will be a whole class experiment, and then each child will go into small groups, move away, and talk about what they experienced. They can come up as small groups and keep experimenting with their ball on the stick and moving around the lamp and seeing what angles creates what phase. There will be we will show and talk about different phases of the moon as a whole group. So we'll do a model of the phases, and then we will go into small groups and do phases of the moon. So basically what they need to do here is identify what each phase is, cut it out, and then put it into order. This will be done in small groups. They will do that together, then we will come back in a group and show and talk about the different phases of the moon again. We'll model the phases and fill in phases of the moon sheet. We'll cut out, after they've cut it out, I'll cut out my own and we'll do it together. We'll discuss what they think, how they come across their answers, how we're going to put them in the right order, what they think comes next. Once we've done that as a whole group, they'll go back to their small groups, discuss how they got their answers, what order they put them in if they think it's right, rearrange them if they need to, and keep learning about what phases. If they need the teacher's help, then they'll be able to come up to get suggestions or strategies that will help them figure out the right phases of the moon. And they should be seeing this too, because they can use their journals as a backup. We've just done the experiment, and we've also watched a video on phases of the moon. So I'm hoping that they will be able to put them in the correct order and work together as a team to find out the responses. The next phase is to elaborate, and we will read Papa, Please Get the Moon For Me by Eric Carle. We'll talk about whether the book is fact or fiction. In small groups, we will answer questions. Could a ladder reach the moon? Can the moon talk? Is the moon too big to carry? And are the moon phases in the right sequence? We will use the moon book to research the correct answers. So we will read this as a group. They will go into small groups to ask or to answer the questions that I've proposed, and then we will come back, read the moon book, talk about what their answers could be, do a partner share, and then go back into small groups and talk about the answers that they came up with. To evaluate, to the last one, would be going through the phases of the moon, which is on 258. Again, and to see if they have actually, by the end of the moon book, gotten everything right. And if they haven't, then they can rearrange it and work out which moon phase goes where, which order it does, and if they've named or identified the correct moon phase. After they've done that, to evaluate or do our summative assessment, they will do the moon phase quiz, which talks basically everything from the moon book and everything that we've discussed previously. So there's no new information. Everything in the moon phases quiz will be information that we've already talked about, investigative experiments that they've done, small group activities that they've completed. Now, to differentiate strategies, we'll be using kinesthetic, audio-visual learning. Learning styles, we'll be using a lot of the multiple intelligence learning styles. We're doing intrapersonal through the journal, interpersonal in small groups and think, pair, shares, visual, kinesthetic and audio. We'll be covering a lot of different learning styles. Also for ESL and ELL, we'd probably use a lot of breaking down of pictures and words so that they can put them together, and also translating them for the ESL or ELL learners. Extension, there is an experiment on page 253 about sand and different size marbles and what size craters they create. They'll be dropping them from different distances to see how big a crater or how big a mark that marble would make. So that's an extension. And another extension could be to create the phases of the moon poster to identify and describe. So this lesson could go on for months and months. It could go on for a couple of weeks, or it could just be put into a day or two. Probably not a day or two, probably about a week. Anyway, it's a great lesson. I will be using this. I've put up my lesson plan as well, and I hope you enjoy. Thanks.